So the Juvenile Fillies turf is a grade one. It's the eighth race on the Friday card for Del Mar Future Stars Friday. It's run at a mile at Del Mar, not normally the mile and a 16th that we've seen in the past. Looking at this field, there's really one big time standout, and that's the number one Lake Victoria. You do have Mark Cassie's got three in this race, I believe. Nitrogen, Vixen, and Abiento, I believe, are the three. You've also got your garden variety Euro Invaders and the Chad Brown entrant. Usual procedure for a turf race. We'll take a look at them one by one. Lake Victoria will start off with a horse who's really pretty darn accomplished for a 2-year-old filly. She's 4 for 4, just won the Juvenile Park Stakes. And I guess the scuttlebutt is that Ryan Moore came back to them and said, run this one back at a mile. And they basically were, like 2 weeks after the race, they said, well, if we're going to do that, we might as well just run in the Breeders' Cup. And that's why she's here. They normally don't get this accomplished, a 2-year-old in the Breeders' Cup. Euros just don't normally bring them. This one is, if you watch the Juvenile Park, this one blew away what was a pretty good field that I believe included Celandine, who is not over here, but is a very highly regarded 2-year-old filly and probably would have been the favorite in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. So to give you an idea, this is a really accomplished horse, Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, and pretty much, I think, towers over this field. Nitrogen ran a really nice Natalma Stakes, was a really game third, led them all the way, and I really like the pluck on this horse to stick to hang in there and not get swallowed up. Mark Cassie, this is one of his, and I think this one might surprise. He's really the only horse in the race who's committed to the lead. And at Del Mar, that may be to her advantage. She's certainly on the improve. And Nitrogen at 15-1, I think, is one to pay attention to in the mix. Coretto comes out of the Miss Grillo, that really strangely run race, and got third, but was passed late in the stretch by Virgin Colada for Chad Brown. And excuse me, those of you who saw the race know that the horse on the front end completely blew the turn and took a couple horses out, and that allowed Scythian to just scoot right up the rail and take the race. This one is, I think, a cut below. I don't see the improvement. This one took us kind of a step back in the Miss Grillo rather than moving forward, and that's never a very good sign. It looks a lot of times when that happens, it looks like a horse who's pretty much plateaued already. So I don't really like Coretto in this spot. Miss Grillo is kind of a tough race to get excited about, really, which leads us to Scythian, who won it for Bill Mott. This one, you could say was lucky in that basically all the horses in front of her were taken out of the race and just left it wide open. But she did keep on pretty well. What concerns me is her speed figures declined when going around 2 turns instead of either staying the same or going up. And this horse looks to have some ability by Tis the Law as freshman class. And I never want to underestimate Bill Mott, as you've heard me say ad nauseum. But is a horse who can beat Lake Victoria? Don't think so. The Miss Grillo, again, I think was kind of an average to below average race. So Scythian, at 12-1, you're probably going to get shorter than that. And I don't know how attractive this one is to fill out an exotic with Lake Victoria. That's really my only objection. Totally Justified. Got second in the Jessamine, and this is one that I thought was okay. No real great shakes, really at 20-1, there's other value I like a little better. I just really wasn't enthused by the Jessamine, really any of the American turf races in comparison. Virgin Colada is like the third or fourth string in Chad Brown's string of 2-year-old turf horses. He's had a couple others that he's more excited about than this one, and got up for second in the Miss Grillo and wasn't impeded by the swinging out of the front runners, so it was kind of to her advantage. And I believe another Chad Brown, a more prominent one, got sucked into that errant turn. So this one, I don't know how good she really is, but I don't think she's kind of okay. And being a Chad Brown, you're probably going to get she's going to become an underlay. So I don't know how excited I am about this one. Thought Process has looked awful good out in California, but who is she beating? Not very much. And that's really the issue. This one certainly, watching in particular with the Surfer Girl, you go back to a race replay analysis, you'll note she was in hand the whole time. All of her races, she basically has just had her way with the other 2-year-olds and was never threatened and could basically win anytime she felt like it. Now is stepping up in class and going to face some major league talent. And I believe I saw a stat where California turf horses are like 0 for 68 in this event. So I'm not really enthused. And I think as the second choice, I don't think she's even close to Lake Victoria. So to me, this one's an underlay and I'll look elsewhere. Heaven's Gate is one I was pretty high on earlier in the year in the Albany Stakes. Ran a really good third, losing to Fairy Godmother, who's a very highly regarded 2-year-old for Aidan O'Brien as well. They have been running this one since then at longer, 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs, and looks to me like a horse who probably will run in the 1,000 guineas next year. Has been described as sort of a JV player for Aidan O'Brien, like second or third string. I think this is a nice horse, but probably not as good as Lake Victoria, but certainly one you can use underneath in your exotics, I think. Looks to be stretching out. Being by Churchill, that's not going to be a problem. So Heaven's Gate, one probably to use. Kilwin really hasn't beat a whole lot either, being undefeated, and did run in the Untappable Stakes. And as we know, horses who come off of Kentucky Downs usually don't fare terribly well in the Breeders' Cup. And really the class level of her 2 races don't really excite me terribly much. And so for that reason, this one is maybe can get underneath. That would be the extent of my interest, but I don't see it as being a win candidate, especially one who closes from well back. Abiento, this is a horse I'm really interested in. This one is by Not This Time, a great sire, trained by Mark Cassie. The Matron Stakes last time really impressed me. Yes, it was a sprint, but it also was a follow-up from her Untappable Stakes third place finish. And if you watch that Matron, this horse had plenty in the tank coming down the stretch and closed really gamely to get up and win. Now, what is significant to me is not only was that another step forward, but also was a step forward after running at Kentucky Downs, which doesn't happen that often. So to me, that says that this horse is progressing and on her way up. And at 30-1, you're going to get some outstanding value. And I really like Abiento in this spot. Not necessarily to win it. I think Lake Victoria is going to be awful hard to beat. But as one who can get up underneath in the exacta or with a puncher's chance to if something happens to Lake Victoria, this one might look pretty darn good. So I've got a big eye on Abiento. Fiery Lucy is a horse with almost seemingly seconditis. You see 4 seconds there. Watching her run, she's a nice horse. Has got a nice turn of foot. The problem is she kind of leaves herself a little too much to do late. And I don't, a lot of times horses who have that issue, once they start moving up in class, things can get a little dicey for them. This is more of a step aside in class or maybe even a step down to a certain degree. But I think this horse is one that you certainly can be very comfortable using underneath, but I don't think is one who's a realistic win candidate. I don't see that top end coming, but one to use for sure. Mayday Ready is undefeated, but again, this is another horse who really hasn't beat a whole lot. It's nice to see a smaller outfit like Joseph Lee, and you do get Frankie Dettori. But you look at the class level of the races that Mayday Ready has been winning, and they really don't stack up to anything Lake Victoria is doing. You are getting 20-1, and this is a nice horse. So I think underneath is one you can certainly use. Hopefully, it won't get bet down too terribly much, but one that you can use in your mix for sure. 13 is Vixen. This is another Marcassi who ran in that Natal Mistakes, and he had, I believe, he had 7 horses in the race, and he took the top 5. If I'm not mistaken, I know for sure he took the top 3. This one closed very well, and appears to be on the upswing. And I don't know. In comparison, the Talma was probably about as good as any of the American turf races. So I think this one is another one that you can use in your mix. We'll be running up near the pace, and I think that's a good place to be at Del Mar with the short stretch and all that. So Vixen is one I think you can certainly use in your mix at a good price, 15-1. And Shota, I made a comment. Those of you who watched the posting about with our race replay analysis for the Juvenile Fillies turf will know what I said about Shota. Look at that picture on the right. Look how small that horse is. The jockey is totally dominating a horse, and I don't see that. You don't see that too often. But that coupled with the last race I saw this one run, basically just got inhaled at the stretch. Tried to take him all the way, and will likely be on the engine here. But I just think this horse is really the size thing really is a big issue to me in a big field. And is going to have some company on the front end. So to me, I think Enshota is probably a euro that I would toss. So we take a look at this field and just going through what we just talked about. From that EP group, Lake Victoria to me is the pick to win it without a doubt. But you can mix and match really any of the other ones in your trying to play underneath. I'm going with Heaven's Gate because she's a Euro with good back class, and I think she's probably as good or better than horses who may be shorter priced in here, like Thought Process. Vixen and Nitrogen both I like for the grit and the forward placement. Fiery Lucy, I think if you can get somewhere near 30-1 is a good bet to get underneath if you want to do the try. And as I mentioned, I really like Abiantote as a horse, as a sleeper in here to get up underneath for the exacta and for the value play without a doubt. And then Mayday Ready is another one I think, you can put underneath very comfortably and you just see what kind of odds you get. To me, the wagering strategy is when you have a horse like Lake Victoria, sure, it's, taking 8-5 in a 14-horse field is never enjoyable unless you can find some value underneath. So I'm not going to mess around with this race too terribly much. This is a race you use for sequence betting, in my opinion. I think Lake Victoria towers over this field and will win this race. However, I do really like Abiantote a lot, and I'm going to put a value bet down to win, and then we're just going to do a 110 cold exacta. And if it hits, great, and if not, fine. But I think she is the best value of the value, and I think is a real sleeper in this race. So we're going to keep it extremely simple, and we'll use this race more for the pick 3s, 4s, and 5s. So that's it for the Juvenile Fillies turf. It's a pretty, to me, it's really got one option. I think Lake Victoria may be the best bet of the entire weekend. She just looks so much better than anybody else that the Americans or the Canadians can offer. And I think she's going to win the race comfortably. Hope this analysis helps you with your own wagering strategy, and I wish you the best of luck as always. And if you do like content like this, please like and subscribe. And we do very much appreciate that. There's much more content coming, so be on the lookout for wagering strategy postings for each individual race. That's it from here. I'll talk to you soon, and until then, be well.